we've had a tweet from Andy. It's very pressing because he's just come on just before we started recording. It says, Richard, is the Monday at 6 p.m. slot now lost and gone forever with the podcast? I've been a bit all over the place in recent weeks, but I'm not 100% sure what your regular slot is at the moment. We don't know, Andy. We don't know. He was supposed to be live today, but our friend Mr. Schofield couldn't make it. So that's why we're not live, because he has to be live, because he'll...
Yes.
I can't edit him out then if he says something.
But he has no Zoom.
No. He has no editing skills either.
Vavava Zoom. No. Yes, indeed.
So much like many ex-players, he can't edit himself. But
we don't know when we're going to be on, Andy.
No, the plan is Monday at 6, but it's not always the case. The fact is, Andy, and this is, the numbers who watch us live, they're not add up to the numbers who watch us. Well, not even watch us live, but watch the recording, but listen to the podcast. More people listen to the podcast than ever watch us live. So that is the main thrust of things. And it just, after the last, we're 2 years into this thing now, aren't we? No one's got a clue anymore of what time is. So the aim is that I've always got Mondays off, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there'll be a podcast at 6 o'clock on a Monday.
And we're going live again next week.
We will be in Leeds. I know people are sick of us in West Yorkshire, but you can't get rid of us. When I say West Yorkshire, do we have postcodes and Leeds? That's it. We don't go to Huddersfield. That's too far away. But we will be live in Leeds. Let me get the details up. Not talking rugby, talking rugby league, but not talking rugby league, if you will. Because we're talking about something different. Do we know who's on the panel yet, or can we not reveal any of those?
We know some who are. We're still waiting to hear from others.
We're talking.
We know journalists and a professor.
There you go. We're talking local sports reporting, which I realise now I used to do. Not in a flippant sense, but I did used to send copy into the local newspaper about my little team, and obviously used to be on the local radio a long time ago. But we're talking about the world of newsprint and such, and those funny coloured newspapers. Did you have a funny coloured newspaper in Leeds, Phil?
Greenan.
I know there's a Greenan in Sheffield because he used to get it when he used to go to the hockey. But
the Green Post, it was part of the Yorkshire Evening Post, and we used to call it the Greenan, and it'd be available in Leeds city centre when we walk back from Headingley after a game.
It's amazing, isn't it? Especially when journalists moan about deadlines today with kickoffs at 8 o'clock. How did they get? How did that work? How did they get them done? Well, we're going to find out next Tuesday. The details are on our Twitter. I will put the link in the description to the program if I remember as well. But I'm looking forward to that because I've got no idea what we're going to learn, which will be very exciting. And looking at the picture of Leeds Central Library, it looks very grand. They closed down the library in my village. It didn't look like that. It was some porter cabins, but I've never been into Leeds Central Library actually. So I'm
you'll love it. You'll love it because it's the reference library as well, and the tiled hall cafe, and it's linked to the Henry Moore Sculpture Gallery. It's a fine piece of architecture.
Back when I started in radio, which is 20 years ago this year, one of my tasks to get my foot in the door was to go to the local reference library in Wakefield, which has moved now, and go through the microfiche of the local newspapers to find tidbits of information such as house prices and things in shops that don't exist anymore that people will remember, like people from Wakefield remember Cosmetique and Ooby-Doo and Avaganda, but also like when Rhys Dinsdale started on Home to Roost because he's from Normanton, or when a local couple appeared on Every Second Counts, and it made the local news. So that was one of my first forays into radio. Now that radio station's been eaten by heart, so all that hard work in the bin. Well, they pay me expenses, so that was nice. Which more than I get these days. Josh Charlie's confused, Phil. He's tweeted, right, and he's not tweeted the RFL, even though they're on Twitter. I know that. Can someone from the RFL call me and explain why I'm banned for 2 games? He asked. Well, and if you've gone on the website, they tell you.
Yes, All he needs to do is have a look at the charge sheet. It's there.
These players on social media, they need to learn what they're doing, because they don't know what they're doing.
There is a growing debate about whether or not we are having too many of our star players on the sidelines, because the crackdown on head-high tackles and or taking out the playmaker late is more worthy of dealing with as perhaps a penalty or an on-report than a ban. I think there's a lot of prominent people coming out saying, we get it, we fully understand player welfare, we fully understand why it's been brought in, but there's no allowance. So if somebody is challenging for a high ball, or they are slipping into a tackle, or there is absolutely no intent whatsoever, but the position that you put yourself in to make what would have been a legal tackle proves to be slightly illegal, that should be penalised, has to be probably deemed to be deliberate, to be sin binned, but shouldn't necessarily automatically carry a ban as well. So I think that's something we're going to hear a lot more about.
Well, I'm not sure necessarily whether you can say, "Oh, he shouldn't be banned because he's famous," but I know the point. I want to see actually why Max Jarrett got 2 games for other contrary behaviour. Let's see if we can find out what's he done.
Was he singing out of tune?
All it says is behaves in any way contrary to the true spirit of. How do I find out? How do I find out properly? Well, I've got sympathy for Josh Charlie because I'm on the website and I can't find it either. It's not it's not always the most user friendly of things, but no, I can't find it. Oh, I don't know. Maybe he's been banned for being from Wakefield. That's what I'm going to go with anyway. So Josh, I'm fully behind you. Your conspiracy here. Congratulations to Matt Pete, who's been named as Betfred Coach of the Month for February in a release embargoed until 7 p.m, which after 7 p.m, so I can read it now. I
think he did play his first get out of jail free card on Saturday night.
Well, that one didn't count, so it's okay, because it was rounds 1 to 3.
Of course, that was in March, so yeah, he deserves it. I think the transformation we've seen in not only just Wigan on the field with a little bit more flair about them, but off the field with the way that they're engaging with the community, with the media. I mean, it's little things like they put out the video just before the game in Toulouse of Abbas Miski, who Lebanese winger making his debut for them, and they flew his sister over from I think she lives in Australia, and they hadn't seen each other for 2 years, which he didn't know anything about it, and that kind of thing generates spirit, camaraderie, puts Wigan back in the heart of the community, and I think Matty Pete's been a real driver of all of that, and good luck. I'm all power to him as well.
I would say they're taking the leaf out of Cilla Black's Surprise, Surprise, or This Is Your Life or something, but I assume no one on the media team at Wigan is old enough to remember either of those programmes, which is probably for the latter, not necessarily a bad thing. I'm trying to think of the other news. Oh, yeah, mentioning coaches, mentioned Wigan there. Ellery Hanley. We had a discussion before we came and recorded last week about who the Combined Nations coach was going to be. None of the names we mentioned, which I think was 2 of them, was Ellery Hanley. And there he is now. He's back in the game again. I saw a letter in the paper saying, well, what's he know about modern rugby league? It's one game. And he's the coach of, Scully called them the Combined Journeymen a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if he'd say that to Ellery's face now, but...
Oh, no, he's bulling up Ellery now.
That's
a great appointment. Great appointment. I think the thing about Ellery is that this is a figurehead game, isn't it? It's like you're trying to bring a composite of people together and give them meaning. And Ellery does all of that. Andrew Henderson will do this is what we'll do off the edge of a scrum kind of thing. And Ellery will just get them all in the dressing room and speak to them for 5 minutes. They'll go out and run through a wall because that's what Ellery does. And, I saw him interviewed when he was appointed, and he will say and do all the right things. But other than that, the fact that he's saying anything, it'll get reported, because as we've said ad nauseam, he is still one of the few people, when you say the words rugby and league, they go, oh, I've heard of Ellery Hanley. So yeah, he's still been the chairman of the Steve Prescott Man of Steel panels. he says, and I think, you know, to be involved in something like that, he watches every game. It might not be live, but I think he was at Wakefield on Thursday though. He sees every game. So what does he need to know more about modern players and coaching? And the thing about that team is you don't really know who's playing in that side until the day before. So it's motivated them. It's given them a reason, and he has always been fantastic at that.
So his coaching career goes Great Britain gap, St Helens gap, Doncaster, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think he was player coach at Leeds, like a player assistant coach under the man whose name can never be mentioned when there's a certain somebody within the vicinity. So yeah, I think part of the fee that was paid for him when he came over from Wigan was to give him that initial leg up into coaching. So yeah, he was an assistant at Leeds.
Wish he still had that little bit of hair at the front. That was a great. I like that. That was great. I'm trying to think of any other news this week. There's been, of course, the Wheelchair Super League started, so that's good. I'm going to get the results of that. And the Women's Challenge Cup starts this week.
Wheelchair, two results the same. 66-28 in two of the three games.
You always guaranteed points. That's the good thing.
Victories for Warrington and Wigan in their inaugural appearances in that guise, and Leeds beat North Wales Crusaders 70-20 on the start of their attempt to retain the treble, and played in their new surroundings of Leeds Beckett University, and Ewan Clibbons scored 6 tries.
So this week it is Wigan versus Warrington and Halifax versus Leeds on Saturday. On Sunday, London versus the North Wales Crusaders. It says in the paper. I've got the women's fixtures in. No, apparently not. I can't see them anywhere. Probably somewhere in the front. Wakefield play Castleford or at Castleford on Sunday, which I'm hoping to pop to. That's my plan anyway. We'll see. I don't know any of the other fixtures. I mean, I could go on the RFL website, which I was just on, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being thick. I can't see them. Anyway, there's some fixtures. Go on the RFL website and patronise it, if you will. Last week started on Monday with Lee beating Widnes, but we mentioned that because we recorded on Tuesday. Is there any other news that I've completely forgotten about? I was going to ask Scully about Shane Warne, but obviously he's not here, so I'll ask him next week. I'll forget, because I'm sure he must have crossed paths with him at some point.
Oh, I would have thought in a bar together at some stage.
As a sporting icon, Warne, that is, obviously. The weekend started on Thursday as Leeds started a great week, winning in the Wheelchair Super League, winning in the netball, and winning in actual Super League for men, as they picked up their first win of the season, beating out of sorts Wakefield Trinity, who were obviously robbed by the referee, being 30-0 down at half time. Lots of conjecture, Phil. At least we won the second half, so that's always a positive. Tom Johnston sticking 2 fingers up to the England selectors by scoring a try in the 80th minute. Ash Hanley sticking 3 fingers up by scoring a hat-trick. In fairness to the decision not to pick Ash Hanley, I know he scored about 1 billion tries over the past 2 years. Wing is one area, and Johnson goes this as well. Wing is one area where we are very much oversubscribed with talent. If they can retrain as something else, and I know Wayne Bennett didn't seem to think so and stuck Blake Austin out there, but if they could retrain as something else, it'd be much more helpful for us.
Yeah, I think the I don't know. The thing to say about Wakefield is under Willie Poaching, they are a lot more spirited. It would have been very easy 30-0 down at half time in pouring rain to say that there's nothing here to achieve. We've got a huge game next week against Toulouse. What we need to do is, just preserve ourselves. But they didn't. The second, you say they won the second half, and that doesn't mean anything. But what it does show is that there's a real commitment. I think the problem was they started so badly, and part of that was down to intelligence of Leeds, that they realised that not only were Wakefield playing 2 second rows in the centre, but that their strength that night was to get the ball wide as quickly as possible, not get drawn in the middle, and use the speed in those sort of fringe positions of, I think Jack Walker had his best game for a while, Ash Handley, and clearly Harry Newman, who was virtually unstoppable every time he carried the ball until he went off with a hamstring tweak, to then lose Jacob Miller after 3 or 4 minutes and not come back, which not only meant you lost your pivotal player in the middle of the field, but really affects your interchanges when a player goes off. And Miller isn't a guy that you're ever going to substitute. So that means that a lot of players have got to pay a lot more minutes, which you hadn't anticipated. I think if you then add into the fact that Wakefield had come off going to Catalan and then playing St Helens, so they'd played the top 2 teams in consecutive weeks and performed really well against both of them. It wasn't a surprise that they were lacking energy. What Leeds did better than they have in any other game this season was capitalise on that in the first 20-25 minutes and put the game to bed early on. I wouldn't read too much into that as a Wakefield performance. But it has ratcheted up the pressure for the match this week, especially with Toulouse going so close to getting their first win.
Yes, lots of pressure on Friday night. That'll be fun. So that was Leeds are out of a crisis. That's the that's the good news as they go to just outside the playoffs in the Super League table. There's nothing more to say on that game. There's not really much to say about Hull KR versus St Helens, because St Helens won 40-8. Sounded from the reports they were just St Helens and Hull KR couldn't do anything to stop them. Now, some people may be concerned Hull KR haven't had a great start to the season. They've only won 1 from 4, but you're again matching expectations with their overperformance last year. Certainly overperforming against expectations last year.
I think the thing to focus on, it was again really tough conditions, very, very wet throughout, quagmire underfoot, but Saints still played a fantastic brand of rugby. And obviously we can't possibly mention that there'll be another issue of 4020 magazine out by the end of this week, but putting that together, speak to columnist Louis McCarthy Scarsborough, and I asked him if this is the best start to a season in terms of the way that they're playing that he's known in all the time he's been there, which is 13 years, and so he's witnessed this great run. And he said it probably is that they've been to Hull twice, which is never easy places to go, particularly early in the season, particularly when the conditions are unfavourable. And both occasions they've come away with spanking wins. That they haven't had to change their team other than for a suspension. I think they're going to have another one now with Conrad Hurrell. So they're not picking up injuries. They're brilliantly conditioned. Everybody knows the roles that they've got to play. Hull KR at the moment aren't at that level. Even last year when they finished so strongly, they started slowly. They built into the season. They just came up against a team that blew them off the park. And when they get everybody fit, everybody out, Lachlan Coote, fully integrated into their team, then they will be fine. But they just came up against a team that was too good, too strong.
Satan's going to do that to more teams than Hull KR this year. That is something we do know for sure. Also on Friday, the TV game, Warrington 18, Catalans 24. Big result for Catalans. It was the first win for Catalans away at Warrington in a dog's age.
11 years. Yeah.
There you go. That was a stat. And, a very impressive performance from the Catalans. Lots of cards. That was good. 9,000 there. That wizard and the dragon thing, that was a bit naff. It's a bit like when Leeds had Ronnie the Rhino dressed up as someone from Star Wars battling Darth Vader, but not as good because that involved Ronnie the Rhino. But on the pitch, outplayed. Scoreline probably flatters Warrington with those 2 late tries from Josh Charnley. Good performance from the Catalans and continue where they left off last year in terms of picking up wins away from home, especially after they were disappointing in week 1 and then they've won 3 in a row now.
They were absolutely outstanding, and they almost reminded us why we should assume that because they got to the grand final last year, that they've learnt from that and almost have put that hurt in a locker somewhere to say, we're going to try and avenge that at some point. Yes, I think they perhaps got their tactics wrong in round one when they played St Helens and looked for the overly physical. They may have got away with a result against Wakefield, but I think they probably were just about always in charge in that game. They were never comfortable. They showed a real dogged spirit and determination in beating Leeds, and they were better than that in defeating Warrington, because not only was Samkins missing, but Fuad Yaha pulled out in the warm-up. So, there's some great performances that Mike McMeekin was rightly praised for moving up into the forwards for the last couple of weeks and into the front row and making a huge contribution. But behind him, we got like Ben Garcia making 50 tackles a match as captain. Artur Romano coming back in after injury and making loads of meters, scoring a try. Romain Franco in there as well, didn't expect to be playing. And these are the kind of players that, if you can call them into a squad and they can get you a result at Warrington, that's why we should take Catalan seriously. There were two schools of thought at the beginning of the season. One was they won't be able to match their endeavours. That was their shot. The other was every year they're going to get a little bit better, and the more taste they get of the big occasions and the trophies that they get their hands on, the longer this is going to last. And I just thought from their point of view, they looked like a really, really well-drilled, settled team that knew exactly, again, what everybody's role is. Tyrone May slipped in at fullback and looked incredibly accomplished. And that's what they bought him for his versatility. And he'll play somewhere else next week and be equally as effective, but it might be as a centre or a winger. I thought Drinkwater bossed the game when he needed to as well. Pearce is clearly finding his feet. But the worry from a Warrington point of view would be it exposed the failings that they've shown in all the previous years, that they haven't won anything, that when they get to, they're great at beating teams in the run up to the matches that are really, really big and matter the most. And then the ones that are marker matches where you're trying to make a statement, something is missing. And a lot of Warrington people are telling us, whether we've seen it with our own eyes or not, that there just seem to be a couple of big forwards light at the moment in those matches. When they need to wrestle control back, that they perhaps haven't got that. But it's early days. They've got a huge test against Saints. Interestingly, a game that they won this time last year. So there's no reason why they can't win it. But Daryl Powell, I think, who will have known the size of the job that he's inherited, just got a little reminder last week.
And when they do lose on Friday, we can all say, "Oh, Daryl Powell, is he under pressure now?" There's your narrative for next week sorted. So if you tune in next Monday at 6 to find out, after which Warrington will have won 40 points to 0 or something. On Saturday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, wasn't it? At the John Smith. Oh, no, it was Sunday, sorry. On Saturday in France, in a game that no one saw apart from the Wigan TV commentators in their houses and people in Toulouse, 5,466 of them. Toulouse nearly beat the mighty Wigan. It was nearly the coach of the month curse before it had been announced. They might have to change their mind. The panel would have had to gone say, no, change it. Put Christian Wool's name back in. But Wigan, jammy as ever, last minute drop goal. They get the win over to Leeds. Very difficult to comment on this game because we haven't seen it, obviously, in full. But that's got to be a good marker for Toulouse, that they can lead for a long time against a good side in Wigan, and that they're starting to put something together now after all the disruption at the start of the season. Well,
I think the first question you've got to ask is, why haven't we seen it?
That's a good question.
There is no excuse really for a Super League game that doesn't have coverage.
I could watch Oxford University versus Cambridge University, of which I don't know. Does anyone care outside of the students involved? I don't know. And the same goes for the boat race and the varsity rugby union match, which neither should be on TV either. But that's elitism for you. But anyway, back to the point. Yes, it is weird in 2022 that we can't. What's going on?
Well, it raises a question of clearly we haven't got the television deal that we hoped we might get with 2 French teams in Super League. But also this perhaps was an ideal opportunity for Super League in its realigned state, whatever that means, to maybe gone to the major broadcaster and said, can we have this game live on YouTube? You can have it all branded up, and it can be sponsored by Sky Sports or whatever. But actually, if there were pictures, and if those pictures were being beamed back for commentators for Radio Wigan or Radio Wigan Warriors, which a lot of people were listening to because that was the only way that they could keep up with what was happening. The more you saw the social media scores coming in, the more you wanted to actually hear the action unfolding. So great hats off again to Wigan for coming up with an ability for people to follow the match. But we missed an opportunity there because that sounded like the game of the weekend, but nobody saw it. That should have been on YouTube. I think Toulouse showed great fighting spirits, come back from 10-0 down early on. You saw the first couple of tries go and you thought, yep, we're going to win by 50 here. And actually then 28-16 up, I think Toulouse were with maybe 8 or 9 minutes to go. And credit to them for putting in a performance where people are now saying they're starting to find their feet, but also credit to Wigan, because I think to find a way to win when it looks as though it's moved away from you says a lot about that Matty Peake team. I don't think we should underestimate that. Not only did they manage to find the move to get them up the right end of the field to drop the goal, but again, listening to a bit of it and seeing some of the information coming in as it was happening, it sounded as though they never panicked, they never lost their shape. They knew exactly what Matty Peake expected of them and how to go about achieving it. And Harry Smith, who apparently didn't have the best of games, was in the right place at the right time to win it for them. And I think Wigan will actually get more out of that than even Toulouse will. And of course, Wigan are in France all this week, aren't they? Because they're away in Catalan at the weekend, and they've turned it into a mini camp.
I hope it's still sunny for them. I don't know what the weather's like in France, but I hope they have a nice week. You mentioned the realignment. I didn't mention that in our exciting news roundup because who cares?
Did that happen? Well, did it happen before or after last week? The thing about it is that it hasn't happened yet. It's got to be voted on at the end of March by the clubs. There's going to be an extraordinary general meeting. B, there's very little actual detail in there other than a joint venture company is being set up with 5 independent directors to look after the commercial marketing of the game, which I think is something that our good friend Mr. Davidson wrote about, probably at the turn of the year.
Yes.
But I don't think any of us really know how having a third body now that sits almost between the RFL and Super League solves your governance issue or actually just makes it more complicated.
I can't say when the press release came through, I was like, I've got to read this in between bits of work.
I read it 3 times and I'm still not 100% sure who is making all the decisions in the game.
I'm not sure it's of the major importance to the fan in general, week in, week out, who turns up to watch the game, that we're bullying up the fact that there's probably going to be some more jobs for people.
Well, more interestingly is the strategic working group, which needed that realignment to go through to make their proposals, which again you can read about in 4 pages of detail in the new Forty20 magazine, looks like it's going to partner with what was IMG and is now Endeavour, not Morse.
I was saying Inspector Morse.
And IMG, of course, are doing an arm of IMG are doing the Channel 4 coverage, which everybody's very excited about. So yeah, that could be a real positive if within that framework of setting up this joint venture company comes the partnership with Endeavour / IMG. But we have yet to see or hear that.
Everyone's rebranded themselves from initials into things these days. I don't know why. So when I'm going down one of those rabbit, when the Royal Mail became Consignia for a bit, that kind of thing, and everyone went, it's just a post office, isn't it? Or whatever it was. So that was that was Toulouse versus Wigan. Well done, Toulouse, nearly winning. Don't do it on Friday, please. Come on now, don't spoil it. I think I'm going to be there in the stands on Friday night. That's my plan.
I think you'll enjoy it. I think you will enjoy it because there's a lot riding on it. I think Wakefield are metamorphosizing themselves into a team that, as the season go on, will get harder and harder to beat. What we don't want, if Toulouse were to win, and we're not doing predictions, but I think Wakefield will win, is any pressure on WP, because I think he is making a difference there.
Well, if he was the right man for the job 6 months ago and they've played 4 games, he's still the right man. But there you go. On Sunday, Huddersfield hammered Salford Red Devils 34-2. We've been asking the Carters to come on for the last few weeks, and I think they're just making excuses now, because as soon as we asked them, Salford have gone rubbish.
Yeah, they should have come on when they were asked, because Salford were top of the league. The last 2 weeks, they wouldn't come anywhere near.
They're going to come on apparently in a few weeks. 34-2. I don't think it's the result that's the surprise. I think it's the gap in the scores. Chris Hill scoring, so that's good for him. I was going to say Wayne Price. Geez, I'm not even getting the right one. Will Price scoring. He's off to the NRL apparently.
All right.
So that's good for him. Innie Senior scored a couple. Jeremy McGilvery, whose place in the England squad was questioned by some quislings last week, he scored. What's his name? McQueen. I don't think he's going to get back in the England squad. Chris McQueen, Gordon McQueen, Haley McQueen.
Gordon, yeah.
He scored. Mark Sneed got a goal for Salford, but that's it. They didn't score a try. I mean, that's, as ever, coaches will be like, oh, kept them trialless. That's brilliant. And the fans are like, yeah, we scored 34 points. Until Lollihea is the best fullback in the competition, Phil. So it's great for him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially as he's not even a fullback, he's a standoff. But I think what we can say is the Ian Watson Huddersfield that he wanted is starting to materialise. That is a comprehensive win in front of their own fans, which can only do the team good. And he seems to have the players he wants in the positions he wants them to play. Theo Farge back makes a big difference as well. Look, a really well-balanced side. The slight worry for Salford is that, they got off to a great start, 2 wins. The 2 defeats they've had against Hull and now Huddersfield, who at the moment are not 2 sides who are necessarily going to be challenging at Old Trafford. If you were to take the bookies odds at the moment, I think Huddersfield still will make the playoffs. I'm not so sure that Hull will. They're quite comprehensive defeats for Salford. So, I know that Paul Rowley afterwards was very positive. A lot that we can take out of the game. I think this is a big week for him, Hull KR. That's a team sort of around them in the league that he needs to be if that optimism that he says is there is to be seen as genuine.
Huddersfield have got a double header this Saturday. They take on... Oh, it's on the telly against Castleford at 3:00 on Saturday. It's a bit odd, isn't it? Why is that?
It's a good question.
Oh, it's because they're doing a double header with the Catalans game, is it? Because that is on telly. But that doesn't make any sense.
They've got 4 games, haven't they?
Yeah.
And I think the curtain raiser to the men's game at Huddersfield is on our league, or...
Oh, good. I was just about to mention that because they play Leeds in the Betfred Women's Challenge Cup Group 2. I've got the fixtures now. That's the sole game on Saturday, so Leeds win. On Sunday, Lee Miners Rangers versus Hull, which you'd expect the home team to win because they're in Super League and Hull FC aren't. The Army take on Warrington. I never found out how long that Warrington player was banned for biting for. I should have done some research into that. Barrow get a baptism of fire in their first Challenge Cup game because they take on the all-conquering Sintellings.
Well, that'll be good for their coach, Amanda Wilkinson, ex of Wigan, of course.
Of course, former grand final winner. York City Knights travel to Dewsbury Moor and not Widnes because Widnes are not in the competition. I don't know why. I hope everything's okay at Widnes.
They've asked to be given more time to prepare for their championship season.
A lot of clubs are signing players from in Super League, signing players from Championship clubs. I don't know if they're one of those who've been affected unduly by that. So York, I mean, what a test for Dewsbury Moor. I mean, I guess it depends on what the result is on on Sunday what kind of team York put out. I mean, obviously, I've got no idea about anything to do with Dewsbury Moor, but obviously that would be a huge mismatch. Bradford versus Wigan. I mean, the main challenge for both teams is to get on the pitch at Odsal on Sunday.
Well, Bradford won their second pre-season friendly this weekend. They look like they've started to rebuild quite well.
Yeah, I mean, there are two teams there who are in a rebuilding phase in a sense, aren't they? Wigan not quite hitting the heights of where obviously winning the grand final a couple of years, 3 years ago, whatever it was now. But speaking of teams rebuilding, Castleford and Wakefield have signed a lot of young players from the Championship, and Castleford have had to do the same as well. But Wakefield have still got a sprinkling of experience in that. I guess Castleford still have as well. But on paper, I think Wakefield have got a good chance of picking up the first win in a couple of years, which sounds ridiculous to say, but that's how it is. And Featherstone, in the post-Andrea Dobson era, they travel to the Alton Raidettes. I don't think it should be Raiderettes. Raidettes doesn't sound right.
I think you're right.
But there you go. It's not my decision.
But it's good that the women's game is back. I think there's been a long pre-season. A lot of people that we've been speaking to are itching to get out there, and I think the NRLW, we managed to see a little bit of that. The men's competition kicks in this week, but the women have had the first two rounds to themselves. And apart from the fact that the standard is frighteningly good when you watch it, there's just a real appetite for women's sport at the moment, and we need to get playing ASAP, because if that's what we're going to be coming up against in the World Cup, we need to be on. Our elite players need to be on the field as much as they can at the moment.
It's almost as if for much of this Challenge Cup competition, this is almost like an extended run of pre-season fixtures for the top teams who should convincingly win their fixtures. And obviously a bit tougher for some of those further. Well, no, it goes without saying, it's a bit like the Northern Rail Cup used to be. So Saints are going to win everything anyway. So said it now. So that's the prediction. I'd like to see more of the NRLW, but it's not on Sky, which I understand why they don't. But I'd like to see more of it. And I wonder with the difference in length of match, whether that will be I can't imagine it will be a massive factor, because none of the teams over here obviously train full time or anything, so it's not as if we're taking that into account. But it should be an advantage that we play 80 minutes, but I don't. It's not going to be any advantage at all.
Well, the other interesting thing about the NRLW is that they're playing 2 seasons in 1 year. So this early competition is actually the 2021 season that was delayed, and they're playing again in August, the actual scheduled 2022 season. So whereas normally they would play a lot less games than we would, there is a case for saying it will make them fitter and more attuned. But will they be suffering a little bit from being overplayed? They've got Origin as well. I think they'll have at least one test match before they come over here. So let's hope they beat the crap out of each other.
Australia, New Zealand in York for the World Cup. Looking forward to that one.
Get a ticket.
It's like the South American football where they have 2 seasons. They have the Apertura and the Clausura, and that's what they're doing in Australia, obviously, but in different style, which delays the inevitable, which is talking about Castleford Tigers, who beat Hull FC in the Lee Radford, Jake Connor exciting contest. Have you ever seen a try like Daniel Smith's before? I make sure you call him Daniel, people. He doesn't like being called Dan. I was told that before interviewing him when he came to Wakefield. Brilliant first try from the Tigers.
9 seconds.
I'm voting that for try of the month. Hopefully they put it up there, the good people at Betfred. But Greg Eden, who's got a ridiculously good scoring record at Castle. Obviously, he's had issues away from the field he's had to deal with as well while doing that. This is a game where you look at the scoreline, you watch the score coming in on Sunday, and it's very much a score and say you score, we score, you score, we score kind of match. The main thing here for Castleford is that they won. Forget anything else about the defence.
The only
attack.
thing
They were, especially when they've got Paul McShane playing out the position at 7. I saw somebody describing it as cosplaying at 7. There's one for the young people. But they won. And that is the main thing, because they've obviously not had the best start to the season. Radda's in now, and 10,000 people turned up to watch it, no doubt plenty from Hull as well. Would have been just the 72 added on to that. So a great atmosphere, I'm sure, down at the Jungle yesterday. And the cast faithful rewarded with their first win of the season, which is good to see for them.
I think the crowd split was something like 7,500 cast fans, 2,500 Hull fans, which is huge credit to the Hull fans for going in those numbers. And they will be a little bit desolate with the way their team played. But if you're going to pack in again a 10,000 gate at the Jungle, you have to reward them. And I think, as you say, Lee Radford will be looking at it going, we could have been a lot more convincing. We got off to the most unbelievable start, and we might have been hanging on a bit at the end. But the only thing that mattered was the 2 points. That monkey is well and truly off the back. As you say, Niall Evalds not being there, I thought was really going to affect their spine. So Gareth O'Brien slipped in at fullback, which meant that Paul McShane had to go into the halves. I thought that would severely weaken Cass. And actually it seemed to strengthen them, just McShane having his hands on the ball in the middle of the field with a bit more space than he normally gets at a hooker, the chance to dictate one out. Seemed like it made a real difference. It showed how, again, important he is to that side. When he is playing well, then the side tend to win. Alternatively, I again, Hull to me just seems stuck in a rut at the moment. They can't get a settled team. They don't seem to be comfortable in the way that they're playing. Clearly, they've lost Luke Gale, which they'd built a fair bit of their pre-season around. Jake Connor, we said it, didn't we, last week? Jake Connor was absolutely outstanding against Salford, had a hand in every try, scored one himself. Absolute outcry that he's not in the England squad on the basis of that. The only thing we said last week was, if he does that every week, he'll be in the England squad. He didn't do it this week. And that's why he isn't in the England squad. And that's why his team lost. Not solely down to him, clearly. But you can't be, 10 out of 10 one week and less than that the next. You have to have a degree of consistency about you. And to me, Hull just don't seem a balanced side at the moment. More injuries, I think they picked up this week as well. But I think they look more like the team that was struggling come the end of that game.
What is positive in the Championship this week is that a lot of very close fixtures, a lot of very close results out there. Bradford edging past Batley 21-20. Very important result for Bradford, as we've been saying. I know we're 4 games in, but they haven't had the best of starts. Featherstone edging out Halifax, which I'm told the score flatters Featherstone slightly in that one with that
very
late
much
try
so.
to push them through. But they always obviously have a good rivalry between those two sides. Lee beating Newcastle 34-18. Did that kick off early so Derek could go to the Manchester derby? Hopefully not chased by wasps. But I mean, there's signs there for Newcastle, because obviously to lose at Lee, well, you'd expect that, but not hammered in terms of the scoreline there.
I think the thing about those 3 games as well is all had crowds over 3,000. Which again is very encouraging.
London just beaten by York, so York are still where they're supposed to be. If you watched us last week, London's best display of the season. It's beaten by 2 in that one, especially coming back from 18-6 down at half time. Who's London got this week? Oh, it's the Challenge Cup this week, isn't it? So they've got no one. Whitehaven beat Dewsbury 40 points to 12, and again coming from behind at half time in that one. Again, I mean, I guess the attendances here is a concern, because that's 764 there, and Workington, Sheffield doesn't have an attendance, but Sheffield, 2 from 2 now, but winning by 54 points to 4 at Workington. We said it was going to be tough for them, and obviously that's proven to be the case, because they are rock bottom of the Championship, and that is a big defeat for them. But it's a big defeat at home, and it's a lot of points to ship in, so you would be concerned about that. The Whitehaven Dewsbury game, which sort of went under the radar a little bit, that I think is a really interesting one in the jockeying for positions towards the bottom of the table. Again, you look at matches between sides of similar ability. I think that's a big win for Whitehaven. We need to get on the Premier Sport gravy train because they're feeding Emma and Ross at half time a platter of pies.
What?
Meat and potato, chicken balti, cheese and onion and peppered steak, and a dessert selection as well. An assortment of chocolates. I mean, they've just got a tub of heroes, haven't they? A savoury selection and a collection of confectionery. So a bag of Haribo and some cheese.
What's going on?
I know. I mean, because this is why everyone hates Hull FC, because they give you that soup. So no one wants to go at Hull.
Pies at Huddersfield as well.
Wow.
A welcome return.
I haven't. Oh, yeah, I saw the Carters tweeted that, didn't they? I saw that. Having not been to a game this year working, I've not availed myself of any press food yet because I've not had any reason to be at a game pretending to work, as some people do. So as we speak, winners are playing Barrow. We don't know how that's going to finish, but one team will perhaps lose their 0. They have Golden Point in the Championship, do they? I don't know.
No.
So they might not. They might not. They might still be unbeaten at the end of the game. You don't know. You can't assume these things. Thursday night, Leeds versus Hull. So that's a Leeds win.
Well, 2 Leeds players missing. Cameron Smith and Cruz Leeming banned.
Cruz Leeming can do the Super League show again.
We haven't heard yet whether there's going to be a frivolous appeal, though.
No. They love their frivolity in Leeds. Friday night, not on telly. Leeds, Wakefield versus Toulouse kicks off at 7:30, so that's good. That'll get in the papers in time. That's positive. 7:45, Salford versus Hull KR. I'd say that's a big game, but I would back Hull KR to bounce back in that one.
I think it's a big game, though, for both teams. I think it's not season defining, but I think it just, after 5 games, you've got a fair idea of, how you're running. And, if Salford go 3 defeats in a row, you'd say a wheel might have slipped off a wagon. If Hull KR win, then I think people will start saying some of the traits that they were known for last year are ones that perhaps would be something to be excited about if you're a fan of theirs.
They're having to do with Lachlan Coote out for a while, aren't they? And Danny Richardson's out for, is it 3 months? I read
3 or 4, yeah.
So at least it gives Castleford time to adjust, and obviously they've got that Paul McShane angle now. Castleford at Huddersfield on Saturday afternoon, as you mentioned, 3:00 kickoff. I'm not on the radio this week, so I can watch that. Catalans versus Wigan at 6:30, also on Saturday. You can have a whole day of rugby league because North Wales Crusaders take on Sheffield Eagles in the Betfred Challenge Cup round 5 at 1:30.
Well, I will then. Then they probably won't be the Huddersfield League at the same time. I wouldn't. Women, no.
Just get someone take you. It's like these people who on the internet say, "Oh, I'm not at Ellen Road. Can someone film the game on their phone?" Someone do that at Huddersfield on Saturday, please. Sunday in the Challenge Cup, Men's Challenge Cup, Barrow versus Workington. That's on the telly on the BBC Red Button. Batley versus Fev on the Sportsman. Whitehaven versus York.
That'll be a good game. That will be a good Batley Fev on the slope. Yeah. That worth watching.
Batley slope a bit more pronounced than the Featherstone one. No one talks about the Featherstone one because Batley's exists. Whitehaven versus York, and on Monday we'll probably be still talking. Sky will be doing his predictions at this point because Bradford take on Lee unless he gets. Will he get hospitality? Will Nigel?
Well, if he gets the late call for hospitality, we'll be bottled again.
Yeah, we'll record it, but and people complain about why TV companies pick fixtures, but you can completely understand why a commercial broadcaster would pick Bradford versus Leigh, even though the game they showed a couple of weeks ago was completely one-sided, and no doubt this will be as well. But I hope Emma's packed some wellies to go pitch side.
It looked a bit sandy, didn't it?
Yeah. No war of the monster trucks, but that is next week's fixtures. Well, I think we've done well not to talk about the realignment or anything because we don't know anything about that. And I don't invent any. I'm fully in favour of goals that hit the post get more points, but no one seems to be keen on that. I mean, that would really mess up the records, wouldn't it? How are you going to denote that on the records when they put them all down? I think this is we are positive. We are positive about the weekend. If you're not going to a men's game, you've got the women's to go watch, and you've got the wheelchair to go watch. There's lots of rugby league to watch, and as we said, the wheelchair games, it's something to support this year with the World Cup, as is the women's, and you can impress your friends when the World Cup comes around by knowing the names of people. Nathan Collins scored 9 tries or something yesterday. Or
no, 9 goals.
9 goals. 9 goals.
2 tries, 9 goals.
He could be in the running for the not Man of Steel, Golden Boot from the end of the year.
Well,
tell all your friends that fact, and they'll go, oh. But yeah, I kind of wish I'd have done more research. I was more aware of when the games kicked off, because I wasn't actually planning to do anything yesterday. But I'll make sure I get to something at some point this year. I wish I knew where all the women's games were. So please, clubs, sort it out. This is supposed to be a professional sport. I know you're not being paid or anything, but please make the effort. It's all right tweeting about the reserves, but I'm not interested. It's saying to the top of the reserve league. Who cares? I want to know when the Women's Super League and Challenge Cup games are on. I want to know where the wheelchair games are on. They're going to make you more money in the long term and more interest for your club than the reserves. Sorry.
I think the important thing is that we are getting more double headers for the women as well. So the prominent games we are getting to know about. It's the other ones. The wheelchair, I am told, is logistically difficult to know too far in advance where the matches are going to be. If, like Leeds, you've got a new base at Leeds Beckett, then that is where they're going to be playing. But I think even Wigan and Warrington found this week with their first home games that wheelchair rugby league is not first choice in a lot of sports centres. It's not marked out for it. The pitch that they need is quite a big one. So things like long-standing badminton arrangements do take priority. Now, the most court space in this country is booked for badminton. It's the by far most popular indoor sport that is played in the kind of places that wheelchair rugby league would be played. So I think Warrington played in a local school and Wigan ended up playing in Liverpool in a sports centre. So I can understand why some of those matches you won't find out until almost kick-off where they're going to be played. But get along if you can. I think Leeds were saying at Beckett they had their biggest ever crowd they'd played in front of, which is great.
Especially up at the same time as the netball was on. Which got more attention for obvious reasons.
Which, funnily enough, they put on YouTube, which we could have done with Toulouse and Wigan.
I'm never going to understand the varsity game, but that's just one of those things. Not that it shouldn't exist, just
If they were the 2 best university teams, I could understand it, but they're not. So show me Loughborough against Leeds Beckett, and I'll definitely watch it. And well done to Oxford and Cambridge. Apparently, it was a great game. But yeah, I'm not sure what it actually cost, if anything, to broadcast that. But it did seem to be a strange choice when we couldn't get a game in Super League from Toulouse.
I bet Matt Horton didn't have to deal with the Wakefield Trinity moaners at the varsity match. Or if they did, they used probably bigger words that he might not have understood, being from Oldham. Could they play wheelchair rugby league outside? And I'm just throwing this idea out there. Is there any reason why it can't be an outside sport?
On a tennis court?
Yeah, well, take the nets down, because that'd be a bit of a bugger.
I don't know. I think not, but it's about as good an idea as getting an extra point if you hit the post with a conversion.
Been invented a new sport. Badminton, I have long had the theory. You say it's Britain's most popular indoor sport. I think mixed doubles badminton is a front for another popular indoor sport, but the less said about that, the better.
Is that to do with car keys in a bowl?
Possibly so. But I've got no evidence to suggest that this is real, but who needs evidence these days? You don't need them. So the magazine's out on Friday. It's already a new month. I'm lost. It's March.
Finished last night. Obviously, a lot of references to the situation in Ukraine and sport being a glorious irrelevance. We've managed to get some quotes from people involved in Ukrainian rugby league and just send them. Obviously, it's on those without saying all our thoughts. Anything we could do, we just want to highlight what's going on over there. Whether practically that makes any difference, I don't know, but we just feel that we needed to highlight their plight from a rugby league point of view. So that's in there, mentioned in a lot of columnists' pages as well. A big feature on the strategic working group. and some interesting columnist comments as well.
Yeah, I don't think I've written about Ukraine.
I think you're the one that didn't.
Yeah, because I've not watched the news because I don't want to watch it because it's the world's rubbish enough without seeing it play out live. So yeah, it remains the same, and it's good to see everyone in solidarity at the matches, and it's a gesture. It's probably no one in I don't know how you pronounce Kiev the proper way, which we now are doing. But, Kiev. But I'm sure no one there is watching the Super League games. But we're thinking of you. Not really much.
They appreciate that. They are hearing some of the support that they're getting, and clearly the average Ukrainian on the street that is struggling to survive is not really interested that Super League is in solidarity with them. But the people who are involved in Ukrainian Rugby League are very grateful for any support that they're getting, either on social media or messages to them. And whilst it's not going to do anything other than alleviate the incredible issues that they are suffering with at the moment, just sometimes to know that people care and are thinking of you, it might be all we can do. If it is, we'll keep doing it.
As ever, it's always the normal people who suffer for the ill effects of. As I've changed my Twitter thing.
Megalomania. Megalomania.
Warmongers are idiots. That's what I've changed it to. That's all I can do. Phil, thank you. Hopefully next Monday we'll be live then at 6
and Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday.
Tuesday we will be live. Excuse me. We probably won't be live as in live on the internet, but you'll be able to watch that back later in the week.
But you could come and
come to Leeds. Come to Leeds to hear us talk about local sports reporting with a panel of experts and us just sat there asking questions. What is local sports reporting, that kind of thing, because it's changed. Whereas once it was exciting stories of daring do, now it's clickbaity stories about who's not in the England squad and who's done something on social media. But that's the world. Nothing we can do. So the magazine's out this week. We're live Monday, fingers crossed. If not, we'll be a podcast, and we will be live in Leeds on Tuesday. I will put the link in the description. It's already on our social media. So please come along if you can. If you can't, we'll be back with you later in the week with the program there. And Witness of Scods, and that tells you when we recorded this program. So welcome to Witness on scoring. Phil, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.
We will.